This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 131st time, we are live from the Reviewing Network studios. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live on the second Sunday of March 2026. And another busy week of news stories, not just related to what's going on over at Paramount and Warner Bros., but we have a number of different stories. It's a packed show all across the board, so we have a lot of things to get to here. We're building up the buzz here. We're 1 week away from the Academy Awards taking place next week. We've got a story centered around that. Well, technically not really a story, more like stuff that's going on that happens every year, but I feel like now's the time to kind of discuss it. We have a couple projects this week that were announced, were canceled, have things that have been associated with people that have been pushed out of the projects, and we'll play a brand new game regarding the Paramount Warner Bros. Merger, and we find out we also have a TV show that's going off the air after 5 seasons. But again, lots of things to get to here, so let's just go ahead and jump right on into it. And we're starting off with one of the more intriguing box offices of recent weeks. The weekend box office, of course. One movie in particular was expected to be a big hit. The other, kind of a gamble overall, but yeah, right now it's not looking too good for the studio that's putting it out. But as I said before, if you follow my review for this is going to have probably a cult following in the next couple of years or so. But we'll get to that one in just a second here. But starting off with number 5, we have Wuthering Heights. Still hanging in there. Really not much there to really push it out right now. But $3.7 million, basically $3.8 million, $3,750,000, so rounded out $3.8 million. 44% drop off from last week. It's up to $78.8 million after 4 weeks domestically. But if you include the worldwide numbers, it's up to $213 million. Then cost $80 million to make. So even though the movie didn't really perform as well here in the States, I think Warner Bros. Wanted it to. And even though most people, including myself, really were not fans of it, still did well enough to cover at least its budget back. So at least there's that. Which brings us to number 4, which was the number 2 film last week, and that is The Goat. The Goat's still hanging around in there, even with the big new family release this weekend. Did okay business, $6.6 million after 4 weeks, 45% drop-off. $83.8 million domestically. If you count worldwide numbers, it's up to $146.3 million, so good money on that front there. Did better than I think most people were expecting it to do. And yeah, with a big new family release coming out this weekend, it's really not that much of a shocker that it did kind of peter off a little bit here. But it did well enough. It was a great movie, so I really am happy to see it do well. So, which brings us now to the big topic of discussion this week, and that is the number 3 movie, and that is The Bride. Maggie Gyllenhaal directing her second film, featuring Jessie Buckley, who's up for an Academy Award next week for a performance in Hamnet, and then also Christian Bale. Also, a casting includes Annette Bening, Jake Gyllenhaal, Peter Sarsgaard. Had some very interesting trailers overall, but in the end, people just weren't really akin to it overall. This thing cost $90 million to make. It only brought in $7.2 million domestically this week, and if you include worldwide numbers, $13.5 million. So yeah, it's a film that, it's definitely a movie that is ambitious as hell and has a lot of good ideas, a lot of inspiration taken from stuff like Frankenstein, Bonnie and Clyde, Last Night in Soho, Young Frankenstein, a little bit of Don't Worry Darling. I said in my review that this was kind of like the anti-Don't Worry Darling. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fun. I can definitely agree that it's very sloppily put together story-wise. Not really a whole lot of the stuff they do here. A lot of the stuff they do here is ambitious and does kind of work, but then there's a lot of stuff that really doesn't work. It doesn't really feel like they had a true idea of what this movie was supposed to be. They were comparing this to like Joker Filet Adieu, which was a bad movie, and was bad simply because there was no direction for the Joker series to go after the first movie. I mean, the first movie was a standalone story, but then again, with a director like Todd Phillips, who had the same kind of thing with The Hangover, there's no reason to make a sequel except the fact that the first film was a big hit. So come up with a sequel for us. And then Todd Phillips just like, oh crap, we don't have anything else. So yeah, that's what I feel like what happened with The Hangover and with Joker as well. But I did enjoy this movie. I thought it was ambitious as hell. And like I said, I think it's going to be a movie that will have a massive following in the months to come. It's in the years to come in general. I think the biggest mistake overall with this film was releasing it in the early part of spring. Like, this is a movie that I feel like could have done excellent business in October, like late September and October, because I think this was originally supposed to be a late September release last year, but they replaced it with one battle after another. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's exactly what happened. But Deadline Hollywood ran an article about what happened with The Bride in general, and I'll read you a little bit here. It says, it was a complete rejection by moviegoers around the world this weekend as Maggie Gyllenhaal's $80 million Bride of Frankenstein monster movie, some people have it at $80 million, some people say $90 million, but The Bride opened to $13.6 million worldwide. Of that, domestically was $7.3 million, not only breaking Warner Bros.' #1 9-picture opening streak at the box office, but repping a bow that was lower than some recent lows for the Burbank, California lot. Read last year's disastrous Mickey 17 and Companion. Again, those movies really were terrible. Interesting sources, not Warner Bros., believe the loss on The Bride could approach $90 million in its first cycle after home entertainment downstream. Note, it will be a while before the ultimate red is realized. Warner Bros. Has no comment about the movie's P&L, which includes $65 million in worldwide P&A. Bad timing for a loss at WBD CEO David Zaslav just cashed in $114 million plus stocks due to a trading window opening for executives involved in any deal negotiations. Word was out for quite some time that The Bride was doomed, that Gyllenhaal was having an uphill battle during production, that her first massive big-budget movie after the $5 million costing 3-time Oscar-nominated Lost Daughter. Hence the push of the Pixar release date from last fall to this weekend. You can't fault Warner's on the weekend. I think we can kind of do that, but okay, I'll let you continue. It's right in the pre-Oscar slot, and there is a lot of heat for Bride star Jessie Buckley to take home Best Actress next Sunday for Hamnet who wins at the Actors Awards, BAFTA, Golden Globes, and Critics' Choice. So basically what they're saying is that this movie will kill her chances of winning an Oscar. I mean, that's pretty much what they're summing it up here. But then again, Eddie Redmayne did do Jupiter Ascending at Warner Brothers before he won the Oscar for The Theory of Everything. Just saying. However, many around town consider the production cost for an original, edgy, high-art movie with actress that is still nascent in her career as far as marquee value goes to be way too much. And I can agree with that. Jessie Buckley isn't really a household name just yet. In fact, I didn't really know too much about her since last year, until last year when she appeared in Hamnet, and she was also in trying to figure out what else she was in. She's been in a couple of other things too. She's been in stuff mostly in the BBC. She was on a show called I Do Anything, which is like a reality show. She was in a couple of BBC productions, and then she kind of started branching out here in the States with stuff like Men, Women Talking, The Lost Daughter, and then Hamnet. Yeah, she's still very relatively new. She was also in Chernobyl too. I forgot she was in Chernobyl. I really like Chernobyl too. And she was in Dolittle. She was in Judy, the Judy Garland movie too. So, she's been around, but I can agree. Like, putting the entire movie on the marketing on her in particular, yeah, she's not really a big draw just yet. It was kind of like the same thing that happened when Chris Evans, after he had just done Captain America: The First Avenger, and that became the big hit that it was. What's his next movie? What's Your Number? That literally comes out 2 months later. And it's just like, guys, it's a little too early to start putting him in stuff, even though you don't know if he's a big box office draw yet. Which, he kind of is by this point in time. He's been in a couple of big hits in general. The Avengers films, of course, Knives Out. But with Jessie Buckley, I think, yeah, it was maybe a little too soon to put this out there. And like I said, I feel like you should have waited until after the Oscars. And again, it probably would have played better if it came out this Halloween. I feel like if you put it around Halloween time, Warner Brothers will make a killing on this movie in the future. That's why I keep saying it's going to have a cult following. And I guarantee you, at some point by the time the decade comes to an end, you're going to walk into a Spirit Halloween one day and start seeing the Bride stuff all over the place. Because this movie feels like it's primed for a cult following on the same level as something like A Nightmare Before Christmas, or some of Warner Brothers' other Halloween movies that you see a lot of at Spirit Halloween. Beetlejuice, The Goonies, Trick or Treat, Corpse Bride, you name it. So back to the article here. It's an understatement to say that we live in a world where a movie's bad word of mouth is immediate in the social media verse. Take your pick. Solo, A Star Wars Story, Snow White, the list goes on. Once again, none of those movies are really that bad. It's very hard for marketing to save a movie alone, and when it's great, a la Warner's Big Bets, Sinners, and One Battle After Another, the movie is screened well in advance to trigger good vibes. What is clear in watching Gyllenhaal's Bride is that every shot is ornate and deliberate. The point was to be campy, badass, and the filmmaker notching sublime performances out of her actors, with Bale and Buckley losing themselves entirely on screen. I understand Gyllenhaal got to make the movie she wanted with the full support of Warner Bros. Motion Picture chairs Pamela Abdy and Michael DeLuca. Bale, Buckley, and Gyllenhaal worked it over the last 2 weeks on a London and New York City press tour. No orphaning going on here by anyone. Then where did The Bride miss? Also, how does a period movie like Nosferatu sans major stars rally with a $21.6 million opening and a $95.6 million domestic, $181.9 million final? Well, I mean, yeah, Nosferatu was one of those big surprises from a couple of years back, and yeah, there really wasn't a big draw to that movie except for the director, Robert Eggers, and I think because it's him directing that film, I think that really was something where it's just like, you know, a guy like him could probably sell the movie on his own merits. Plus, the marketing for that film was incredible, and of course, it went on to be a big awards contender down the hall. But this next one makes up a good point. This next sentence makes a good point too. We've seen it too many times. Period horror is hard as it is never fully persuades the horror audience in form, not sophisticated moviegoers. Bride C+ cinema score is on par with Midsommar C+, and just below the B- grades of Nosferatu, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Francis Ford Coppola's produced Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak. All those movies are good except for Crimson Peak. Crimson Peak is that one where you felt like Guillermo del Toro was kind of phoning it in, but I love Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I really do I feel like the Mary Shelley Frankenstein movie from Francis Ford Coppola was a very underrated movie when it came. I didn't like it back in the day, but as time has gone on, when I watched it again, when I got the 4K for it, I realized how good this movie was. I mean, maybe that's just what it is. Maybe it's just, period horror is something that will usually never be a big draw unless you put it out in the right time in general, as this next article is going to say here. Next paragraph, I should say. Nosferatu worked in that it knew it was an elevated horror film. Not to mention, Dracula has more bite at the box office than Frankenstein in recent adaptations. Nosferatu also cost a reported $50 million off of a $75 million P&A and netted a $70 million profit. While Bride is aesthetically appealing, there's a small audience for such fare. I understand that Gyllenhaal had a slew of ideas for what Bride was. Female empowerment movie, Bonnie and Clyde tragic love story, punk rock monster movie, all of which tested indicated needed to be stripped back. I should have also said there was a little bit of Sid and Nancy in there too. And that really is kind of the biggest flaw with the movie, as I said before. It was the fact that just too much was going on in general. And that movie in particular, I mean, I feel like that movie would have done so much better had the story have been legitimately overall better put together in it overall. But I mean, I heard reports of people walking out of this movie, and all I can think to myself is people can sit through garbage like the Minecraft movie and be perfectly fine with it, but they couldn't even bother watching this movie in general. Like, it just, I mean, it's two different genres, I know that, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, come on, man. I mean, really? So where does that leave Warner Brothers here? As the next paragraph basically shows here, the domestic box office is fragile, and the industry needs movies like Bride to win. Low production costs should be married to originality, and may the two never be separated. I understand that there was never a $20 million reshoot on The Bride. That's misinformation, and Buckley only shot 1 day of reshoots. DeLuca and Abby's plan is having a diversified slate so that the potential hits pay for any shortfalls for the big swings. And there's plenty of heat on this year's schedule, and there's one of these movies in particular we're going to touch on here in a second that I feel like could also be going down the same pathway too. The Zazie Beetz South by Southwest will premiere They Will Kill You, which there's been trailers that have been popping up the last couple of weeks, but I don't know. I mean, everyone's thinking it's going to be like the sleeper hit in general. I just don't see it with that movie, man. I don't think that movie kind of feels like it has the same problem that The Bride does. It doesn't have a big draw to it, and it doesn't really. It looks ambitious, yes, but I don't think it's a movie that's really going to. I mean, it has to really have this big, sweeping reactions coming out strong early on. When South by Southwest happens next week. But I feel like that's going to be the key for this movie in general to find any success overall. It comes out at the end of the month, and like I said, I really don't think it's going to have that big of a success rate that I think the studio's hoping for. But then they also mentioned stuff like Mortal Kombat 2, DC Supergirl, Evil Dead Burn, David Robert Mitchell's newest film, Flowerville Street, Practical Magic 2, Alejandro Inarritu's Tom Cruise movie Digger, Clayface, The Cat in the Hat, J.J. Abrams' The Great Beyond, and Legendary's Dune Part 3 on the horizon before Paramount swallows up what they see as a prized franchise studio, one that earned them more than $4 billion at the global box office last year, one that was worth wrestling over with Netflix. In what alternate universe does The Bride win? At a significantly lower price point for an original, far away from Del Toro's Frankenstein, with a film festival launch. At the same time, the biggest mistake would be not betting on Bride. Yeah, I think the biggest mistake simply came down to too much going on in the story and bad placement in terms of the release date, and also just putting too much on the star of the movie, Jessie Buckley, to really have this film become the success that it is. But like I said, this thing's going to have a cult following in the years down the road. I guarantee it. And it's certainly going to be a lot more memorable than the number 2 movie, number 1 last week, which, what did I tell you, folks? Scream 7, which, yeah, last week was the only week it got because it dropped off big time. Now, granted, it still made back its budget and then some. It's a massive hit for Paramount, but it's worth talking about when you drop 73% from last week to $17.3 million this week, bringing its 2-week total to $93.3 million. If you count worldwide numbers, it's up to $150 million. And I think I want to say it's nearing closer to becoming the highest grossing film in the Scream series, which I thought Scream 1 was the biggest hit of them all. But I'm looking at the numbers here. Actually, no. Scream 6 was actually higher, $108 million. First Scream only brought in $103 million. Scream 2, $101 million. So yeah, they're gonna make their money back on this, even though the movie was fucking terrible. Yeah, it's gonna do very well for them overall. But yeah, like I said, I did not enjoy that movie at all. But I did really enjoy the number 1 movie this week, and boy, did Pixar and Disney need this one badly. Number 1 this week, Hoppers, the new Pixar film. You know, after all their original films that came out in theaters the last couple of years that didn't perform well, this one did pretty well. $46 million domestically. If you include worldwide numbers, it's up to $88 million. Film cost $150 million to make. The word of mouth on this movie is excellent. It got an A on CinemaScore, 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, they are good to go on this one. This thing is going to have a lot of time to make back that money and then some. It's good, and I think it is if I'm not mistaken, I think it is the only big family film out there right now for Easter. I'm sorry, I completely forgot about the big animated epic that comes out in a couple weeks' time, the Pow Pow Fish. Some of you have no idea what I'm even talking about. No, it's a Viva Pictures animated movie. I think that's the same company that put those... Remember those posters that I showed you the last time I went up to the Cinemark Theater at the Monroeville Mall, where it looked like movies that were basically not real films in general? I think this is that same company that's putting this out there. But no, I'm of course talking about the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which comes out on April Fool's Day. So it's got 4 weeks, this movie Hoppers does, to make some change at the box office, and should do very well in the next couple of weeks. So I don't see any other real family competition, especially next week, with the only big new release being Reminders of Him, the new film based off of a Colleen Hoover novel. And then the big question mark will be how big Project Hail Mary will go in a couple weeks' time, as well as Ready or Not 2. And then, of course, on March 27th, you've got the aforementioned They Will Kill You, which I don't think is going to do much business in general. So yeah, it's got time to dominate this month. I think it will end up being... Actually, no, because Project Hail Mary should do very well on March 20th with the buzz on that film going. So at least I'll have the number 1 movie next week, and should continue to do well over the course of the month of March, especially. And then, of course, Super Mario Galaxy comes out on April 1st, and then they'll just take it over from there. But, yeah, very good movie, very funny film. Really enjoyed that film a lot. One of my is one of the funniest Pixar movies I've seen in a long, long time. Just a really, really solid movie across the board. And, yeah, terrific film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Nothing really to report on other new releases this weekend or anything of noteworthiness in terms of the other films in general here. But, yeah, so not much more to say about that, except Hoppers is the number 1 film. Should be the number 1 film next week, more than likely. And then we'll see how Project Hail Mary does in the next 2 weeks. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get into some story time. And we have the latest updates from the Paramount Warner Bros. Merger. So now that Paramount has officially won the Warner Bros. Bidding war, they are making headlines about what they're going to do once this merger comes together. Yeah, I know there's the talk out there about, California trying to stop the merger from happening, but you realize what kind of administration we have right now. They're going to try to get this through as quickly as possible. But one of the big stories that broke early on in the week was the fact that they made the headlines that the rumors of this, they were rumoring about this for a while now, if this actually got done, but the rumors apparently are now true. HBO Max and Paramount Plus will combine into one streaming platform, and Paramount also says that HBO brand will operate with independence. Sure they will. Variety has a story here, as it says, Paramount Skydance plans to combine Paramount Plus and HBO Max into one streaming service upon the completion of the merger between Paramount and Warner Bros. However, Paramount will want HBO, the brand, to operate with independence. As we said, we do plan to put the two services together, which today gives us a little over 200 million direct-to-consumer subscribers. Paramount CEO David Ellison said during an investor call breaking down the details of the planned merger Monday, "We think that really positions us to compete with the leaders in the space. At Paramount, by the middle of this year, we'll have completed the constellation of our three services under one unified stack, and you can see us taking a similar approach to the platform going forward. And we think the combined offering, and given the amount of content and what we can do from the tech side, really will put us in a position to be able to compete with the most scaled players in DTC." Based on the call, it was not immediately clear when the setup of the new combined streamer will be, and whether HBO Max will be available as a tile within the service or fully integrated. However, Ellison did make it clear Paramount leaders want to give HBO, currently run by Casey Bloys, the special treatment to continue developing and programming content without heavy oversight from Paramount executives. Just go ahead and and he probably is thinking to himself, yeah, we're just going to tell him to go ahead and get rid of John Oliver and Bill Maher. I'm sorry, I keep bringing this up, but you know good and goddamn well that's what's going to happen at this point. But, so yeah, this is something that they've been talking about when this merger news started to take shape, that they were going to potentially merge these two companies together. And in a way, on a level, yeah, it makes sense, because look at what happened with Hulu and Disney Plus. They merged those two together, and so you had those systems already, so you could pretty much, I mean, I would think it's going to be a cost-efficient strategy on their part, but they also announced during the thing this week that they will not sell their cable networks in the Warner Brothers merger. There was the whole thing about whether or not, Paramount was going to get rid of the Warner Brothers networks like Cartoon Network, TBS, but as far as we know right now, that is not going to be the case whatsoever. As I've got this from Deadline Hollywood, it says David Ellison said that we believe in the assets we're buying, and there's no plan to divest or spin off a package of cable assets at this time. And in particular, we actually think, given the brands that Warner Bros. Is bringing to Paramount, there are a lot of opportunity to think about the different aspects of what they can do, both on the linear side and the digital side. So that's our plan right now, says Chief Strategy Officer Andy Gordon. Expressed another way, we believe that many of our linear channels have incredible brand that we can be reinvigorated for a streaming and digital world. Of course, they bring up Comcast, which spun off into NBC Universal cable networks into Versant, and WBD was planning to do the same thing in a previous agreement with Netflix by separating its programming assets in another company called Discovery Global. The deal Netflix inked with the last... This is stuff that I've already talked about before, but... I'll read this part right here. The combined company, they said, will have a presence in over 200 countries and territories worldwide, with a portfolio of cable and free-to-air networks including CBS, CNN, TBS, TNT, Food Network, HDTV, MTV, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, and Discovery Channel. It plans to provide more opportunities for global distribution and local production. So again, let's take everything that David Ellison is saying right now with a grain of salt, because you know good and goddamn well that this is that he and his cronies essentially are with a company that is literally saying that we're going to do this, but secretly they already have a secret plan of what they're going to do next. I mean, the people at CNN kind of already know that, their numbers are probably up pretty soon too. So, I mean, that's all I'll say about the merger right now, but there is still some news regarding, Warner Brothers this week, as they are continuing to run things as normal for right now, with a couple of news stories that broke this week, and we'll play a fun little game here that I want to bring in here once we get through the articles I have here. And that is that we're heading back into the world of Westeros, according to a Hollywood Reporter. It looks like the Game of Thrones movie that was mentioned a couple of years ago is moving forward. This was a story that was released this week. The world of Game of Thrones could finally be heading to the big screen. Warner Bros. Is now officially developing a movie set in George R.R. Martin's fantasy world with writer Beau Willimon, creator of Andor and House of Cards. The news was first teased in The Hollywood Reporter's recent cover story profile on Martin, which revealed that both HBO and the Warner Bros. Film division were working on rival versions of the story of the King Aeon E. Targaryen's conquest of Westeros. As we reported, the film version is being envisioned as a mammoth, Dune-sized feature film. Page 6 Hollywood broke the news on Willman's involvement. Of course, everything at Warner Bros. Is a bit up in the air, given the studios expect to sell the Paramount Skydance. So let's go ahead. I'm going to move on from that one because we kind of touched on that already. But the idea of a Thrones movie has been kicking around as early as 2013, when the original series showrunners David Benioff and Dan Weiss pitched HBO on potentially ending the blockbuster series with 3 feature films a la Lord of the Rings. HBO balked at the idea, however, preferring interests to stay focused on their core subscription businesses, which is why the Sex and the City movies and the Entourage movies were so successful. Not. But, it's time to play a fun little game, ladies and gentlemen. It's a little game I like to call, Will It Survive the Merger? Will it survive the merger? Will this Game of Thrones project actually get made? Or will the Paramount merger kind of kill it in the end? Let's go ahead, audience members. What do you think out there? I see some yeses. I see some no's. Yes, yes, no, 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 maybe, some. Oh, yes, no. Okay. All bets are off here. What do I think is going to happen? Will this Game of Thrones movie survive the merger coming up here? And the answer to that question, in my opinion, is... drumroll. Yes, it will. I think it will survive the merger simply for one reason and one reason only. Game of Thrones is still a profitable franchise for HBO and Warner Bros. I mean, you have 2 spinoffs that are on the air right now, House of the Dragon, and we just had A Night of the Seven Kingdoms premiering this week, which I've yet to see that one, but I have seen House of the Dragon. Actually just played the House of the Dragon casino game yesterday, which finally made it over to my local casino. But, yeah, it's a franchise that is still very profitable for HBO and Warner Bros. There's still a loyal fan base to it. I have no doubt in my mind that this thing does get made, because this has been something they've been wanting to talk about doing for a number of years. And like I said, it's a franchise that will churn out money for these studios. So I think it will indeed survive the merger and will go ahead and move forward here. I really do think that it will have a chance to survive here. I'm really curious to see what they do with a movie caliber budget here. I mean, they're already doing a lot of things with the HBO series too, with the money they spent on that. But imagine seeing a film like this with a budget on the size of Dune on a big screen in IMAX. I think that could be really cool for this film. I think it's got a chance to succeed. So we'll see if this actually does make it past the finish line here. Hope it does, because I think there's a lot of good possibilities that can be done with this. So we're not done with Warner Brothers just yet, because there was another story this week from another project that they're working on. Yes, Warner Brothers continue to be in the news with films that they're working on right now, and this time not in a good way. Issac Chung, who was, of course, nominated for his movie Minari, and then got his chance to work on a big Hollywood project with Twisters a couple of years ago. He was attached to direct the upcoming Oceans prequel with Margot Robbie and Bradley Cooper. Yeah, it's not happening anymore. It says here on Deadline, 2-time Oscar-nominated Minari filmmaker Issac Chung has departed Warner Brothers and Lucky Chap's Oceans prequel. Chung was in development with the Pixar and producer Margot Robbie. We are told by a Warner Brothers spokesperson that this is an amicable split due to creative differences. Warner Brothers and Lucky Chap also said Issac is a singular filmmaking talent whose vision and partnership has been invaluable to Warner Brothers and Lucky Chap throughout this journey. Our experience with him has only deepened our enthusiasm to collaborate on future projects altogether. And of course, they bring up Warner Brothers about to be acquired by Paramount. The Oceans prequel remains an important project to get up and running. A search for a new director is underway. The plot of the new movie remains under wraps, with the screenplay by Kerry Solomon and based off of characters created by George Clayton Johnson and Jack Golden Russell. It's time once again to play that wonderful game, folks. Will it survive the merger? Will the Oceans prequel with Margot Robbie and Bradley Cooper survive the merger? Let's hear your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I see a couple of no's up there in the top right corner there. Some yeses, maybes, no's. I'm hearing a lot of no's here. I think we're good. Let's answer the question right now. Will the Oceans prequel starring Margot Robbie survive the merger? The answer to that question is... I don't think so. And I only say I don't think so because, kind of going with the opposite of what I said about Game of Thrones, that's still profitable for Warner Brothers, Ocean's 11 really is not. I mean, Ocean's 11 got lucky the first time with the trilogy by Steven Soderbergh, And it helps that you have a trilogy that features some of the biggest stars around at that time: George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Andy Garcia, Julia Roberts. And then they tried to do an all-female version with Sandra Bullock, Anne Hathaway, and Cate Blanchett a couple of years ago, which I liked, but didn't really do much business in general overall. The Ocean's movies most of them are good. The only one that's really terrible is Ocean's 12, and I feel like the Ocean's movies are not going to be a big, reliable draw for Warner Brothers in general. I mean, it could be cheap to produce overall, especially if you get a lesser director involved in it, but I don't know. I just don't feel like it's a movie that will get past the finish line, especially if when this merger eventually gets done. Excuse me. I felt like Linus from It's the Great Pumpkin. Good Lord. I said if. I meant when it happens. Like he's like on Halloween night when he's looking for the Great Pumpkin at the end of It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. But yeah, I do think that this movie probably will not get made when they realize that this thing will not have a reliable hook to it. I mean, yeah, you got Bradley Cooper and Margot Robbie, but even Margot Robbie's last couple of movies doesn't prove that she's that big box office draw yet. I mean, Barbie was the big hit, but yeah, Wuthering Heights was only a mild success for them, and then A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey was not, so they might take that into consideration here. So I don't think this gets past the finish line, but we'll see what happens as we move along here. So I am going to steer away from Warner Brothers. Let's go ahead and touch on some other things going on in the rest of Hollywood, including an update on one of the best shows on TV, which is coming to an end this season. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the rumors are true. The Bear is set to end this summer with the 5th and final season on FX and Hulu. Hollywood Reporter finally confirmed the news this week. It says The Bear is getting to serve its final meals. The FX-produced series, which streams on Hulu, is coming to an end with its upcoming 5th season. The Emmy-winning show is currently filming in and around Chicago and is slated to debut later this year. Past seasons have all premiered as binge releases in late June. Jamie Lee Curtis, who won an Emmy for a recurring role as Carmi's mother and Natalie's mother, said in an interview with Entertainment Tonight Tuesday that the show was coming to a close. It's the end of the show, she said in response to speculation about a February 17th Instagram post in which she referenced completing the story of The Bear. Everyone knows it's the end of the show. I'm not breaking any news to anybody. It's the end of the show. They've said it from the beginning. FX declined comment. Signs have long pointed to a finite run with The Bear. White has said in previous interviews that series creator Christopher Storer originally had a 4-season story arc in mind for the show. Season 4's finale was titled Goodbye, and saw Carmi decide to leave both his business and the culinary business altogether. And not for nothing, a show that has interwoven grief and trauma so closely with its workplace storylines can't keep airing out of these traumas forever. FX ordered the 5th season of The Bear in July 2025, about a week after Season 4 premiered. Through its first 3 seasons, The Bear has won 21 Emmy Awards, including a Best Comedy Series award in 2023, one of 10 Emmys it took home that year, along with acting honors for White, Curtis, Ayo Edebiri, Evan Moss-Baccarat, Liza Colin-Zayas, and John Barenthal. Season 4 will be eligible for the 2026 Emmys in September. And I really enjoyed this show. I thought Season 4 was up there with some of the best Season 4s of recent memory. And I was really impressed by the show in general. I think they do a good job of blending the balance between comedy and drama. And it shows that yeah, FX is not just a network that just will put on whatever crap Ryan Murphy comes out with here. It was a great show. It was a good show that ran for a long time, and not for a long time, a good amount in general. And I'm very curious to see how it's going to end up with this last season. Even though they did say it's a 4-story arc, but yeah. Very interesting to see how that will turn out in the end, but hopefully it will turn out to be pretty good when it's all said and done. So, very quick one on that one with The Bear Season 5. So let's go ahead and move on to a couple stories related to Seth MacFarlane. And yes, we're kind of diving back into the Paramount realm, but we have to talk about it because they're the ones who put the Naked Gun out there. We got some updates from Seth MacFarlane about a potential Naked Gun sequel. This, of course, is a big week for him with the Ted series starting its new season. We'll touch on that in a second because there's something I want to touch on with that. But, again from the Hollywood Reporter, fans of the Naked Gun franchise may need to brew some coffee and stay patient before finding out if Police Squad will soon tackle another case. Director Akiva Schaffer's feature reboot, The Naked Gun, hit theaters last summer from Paramount Pictures and starred Liam Neeson, Pamela Anderson, and Paul Walter Hauser. This marked the 4th entry in the film series that kicked off with Leslie Nielsen starring as Detective Frank Drebin in David Zucker's original 1988 movie after the character originated on ABC's Police Squad. During a conversation with The Hollywood Reporter to promote Thursday's launch for the 2nd season of Peacock's series Ted, Seth MacFarlane, who produced last year's The Naked Gun through his Fuzzy Door banner, weighed in on the chances for a potential sequel in which Nielsen would reprise his role as Frank Drebin Jr. I know everyone would love to, including Liam, MacFarlane says. We have not heard anything yet. I think it's all up to Paramount. The reboot of The Naked Gun hit theaters last August and collected $102 million at the global box office. Prior to its release, the film was watched closely as a possible referendum on whether audiences would support comedy features and spoof movies in particular, given that these type of projects have not been as prevalent in theaters as they were decades ago. In a conversation with The Hollywood Reporter timed with the 2025 film's release, screenwriters Dan Gregor and Doug Mann said they had begun making notes about a potential follow-up idea. Dan and I have notebooks already that we've already started to just jot down ideas on, and Mann said, Akiva is the same way to a degree. Following the film's release, producer Erica Huggins told The Hollywood Reporter that there have been talks among the project's team about a possible sequel. Akiva and Dan and Doug, our writers, were all talking about it. When asked earlier this year about the prospects of a sequel, Schaefer told CBR, I guess that's Comic Book Resources. Is it Comic Book Resources? It just says CBR, but I think that is Comic Book Resources. But it says, we are not planning another, but noted there's some ideas that have been previously discussed. The directors also pointed out that Skydance Media's acquisition of Paramount Global getting finalized days after the release of The Naked Gun could potentially complicate the path for a sequel. The merger was about 7 days after the movie came out, so we're waiting to see if they would want it. So yeah, it goes back to the Paramount Warner Bros. Merger again. Well, not really the Paramount Warner Bros. Merger, when Skydance picked up Paramount, and so I mean, it's just kind of a wait-and-see pattern right now. But honestly, and this is not me going back to Scary Movie 6 because that trailer reaction video I did was still was the first time I ever hit 100,000 views on any video. But no, I'm going back to this because, you know, the people behind Scary Movie 6 are just loudmouths right now because they're talking about. I think it's Marlon Wayans doing it most of it because just like he's going off on people just like, oh well, our movie Scary Movie 6 is gonna cancel culture. You know, we're gonna prove that comedy is back in full swing. Really, because that was literally the marketing campaign for The Naked Gun last summer. And yeah, I would be more trustworthy of Marlon Wayans if the Wayans were actually directing that movie like they did with the other two Scary Movies films. But no. They're getting the director of A Haunted House and 50 Shades of Black. So, yeah, sorry that I'm not excited for Scary Movie 6, and I don't care what anybody says. I'm not excited for this. I'm not excited for that movie. And, I mean, I just really hope that Paramount doesn't put all the marketing behind that movie and leave the Naked Gun series out to dust. Because, I'm sorry, the Naked Gun movies are much better than the Scary Movie films. I don't care what anybody says. But, yeah, so that is, So that's what's happening on the Naked Gun front. But let's talk about the other interesting noted thing that happened this week with Seth MacFarlane. And it's the fact that they did something that I've been mostly critical of, but in this case, I'm willing to give them an exception to it. So as I mentioned before, Ted Season 2 finally dropped on Peacock this week, and I've been watching some episodes, and yeah, it's pretty friggin' amazing, man. I mean, it's got Seth MacFarlane singing the Gummy Bears theme song as Ted and bouncing around on a high school stage. I mean, what more could you ask for? But the comedy is still really funny. This is still a really, really good show. You do love these characters in general. And they also tackle some interesting aspects that I did not think they were going to do. There was an episode where they talked about abortion, which is funny because on Peacock, it's a-okay to do an episode like this. But then when Family Guy does an episode what is it now, 16 years ago, it can't be seen on Fox or anywhere else. So they put it on DVD. Even though when you really watch that Family Guy episode, it's really not that bad. They don't really tackle anything too dark or too serious on there that would have forced Fox to pull it off the air. But there was one thing that they did this past week, this new season that I did want to talk about here that I thought was kind of intriguing what they did. So in the season finale of the show, there's a part in the episode where, you know, because this takes place in the 1990s, Bill Clinton shows up, and when you look at it at first, you think to yourself, oh my god, that's actually Bill Clinton. And I get that, and I remember that, you know, back when The Hangover Part 2 was getting filmed, there was this whole thing where Bill Clinton was going to have a cameo playing like a tattoo artist, but then they replaced it with Liam Neeson, or it could have been the other way around. I think they went to Mel Gibson at one point, but then he was eventually played by Nick Cassavetes. So I'm thinking to myself, well, you know, Bill Clinton has said that he loves comedies, and he's even told them that one of his favorite comedies is, of all things, Who's Your Caddy? And it's just kind of like, holy crap, man! Like really, that's one of your favorite movies? It's just like, but what I'm bringing up here is that when I first watched this episode, when I was first watching the episode where he has a cameo in there, I thought to myself, they got Bill Clinton there. That's actually incredible because it literally looks like him. But I want you to listen closely here, and you can find this clip on social media. You can find it out there. But yeah, you can tell when you watch the picture, and you'll see the video. You'll see the image in the thumbnail of this character of this Bill Clinton. But it looks like him. But if you listen closely, it doesn't really sound like him.
Oh gosh, what should I order? Let's see, everything looks good. Any recommendations?
Yeah. I recommend you do a better job.
Art?
You're not doing a very good job. And yeah.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
It looks like him, but it sounds like Seth MacFarlane when he was doing the Bill Clinton voice on Family Guy. Like, I have a clip here from the very early years of Family Guy where Seth MacFarlane does the voice of Bill Clinton. Alright, so listen to it again. This is from Ted.
Oh gosh, what should I order? Let's see, everything looks good. Any recommendations?
That's on Ted. Now here he is on Family Guy. This was like in the first episode, I believe.
Mr. President, why do you think the American public has continued to support you throughout these impeachment proceedings?
Probably because you're so fat.
Good old early day Family Guy. But, yeah, it definitely sounds like Seth MacFarlane, but it does not look like him with the makeup and all that. Everyone thought that it was probably makeup, but no. It actually turns out that they used artificial intelligence. Now, I've talked about how I'm one of those people that does not like AI slob. I don't like AI created videos. Like, you have no idea how many times I have to block an AI account when I open up my TikTok and all that, because it's just like, I don't want to watch this. It's not good. It looks terrible, but I've touched on, as I've said before, that I do use AI for specific things. Like, I'll use it for when I have to sell something online on eBay and I don't have the time to put together like a full-on description and all that. I'll do the work by putting like the stuff in the categories and then they'll write a description for me. And most of the time it does come out usually looking like what I want it to come out as. But this is from the Hollywood Reporter that talks about this. It says, Seth MacFarlane's unsettlingly realistic portrayal of Bill Clinton in Ted Season 2 is going viral online. The Family Guy creator said he used artificial intelligence to turn himself into the former president in his Peacock comedy series. MacFarlane has performed Clinton's voice many times on Fox's animated hit Family Guy, but this time he managed to pull off an eerily accurate 1990s-era Clinton in a live-action show thanks to the new technology. I've been doing my Bill Clinton impression since the early days of Family Guy, as we just showed you there, MacFarlane told the Associated Press. It's an interesting example of how AI can be used as a tool and not necessarily trample on the art that the rest of the industry is doing. We tried prosthetics, we tried traditional CGI, and everything just looked terrifying, so we just said, to hell with it, let's try AI. It worked. It was the only way to look like Bill Clinton. The footage has really thrown some viewers, such as one who posted. They had Bill Clinton appear in an episode, and I can't tell if it's a lookalike or some sort of CGI or AI deepfake because he looks exactly like the real thing. Ted is set in the 1990s. In the scene, Clinton goes on a profane rant about a donut store employee who happens to be the father of the main human character, played by Max Burkholder on the show, played by Scott Grimes, the father. Who, anytime Scott Grimes gets involved with Seth MacFarlane, it's instantly comedy gold. I mean, American Dad, what else was they? But anytime he works with Scott Grimes, it's usually a great thing. But yeah, they didn't use AI like you see these AI trailers going out there. Because when you watch AI animation overall, you can definitely tell something is off overall when they do it with the animation and all that. Like, you'll notice, especially with live videos, you can definitely with supposedly real people, you can tell that the way the camera is moving and the fact that nobody else seems to be moving like a normal person does. But when I watch this, it's just like, I'm completely against AI, but I gotta tell you, man, this was actually one of the more impressive feats on what they're able to do here. Because really, I mean, I'm not saying this as somebody that says that, hey, AI is I'm not that person that's going to be the AI future, is the future guy. But I think if you do something like what Seth MacFarlane did here, to look just as close as Bill Clinton as you possibly can, I think there is a way that AI could be good for the world in general. I think what they did on the show is very well done. I think it is very unique, and again, it doesn't feel fake at all. Like, it looks legitimately real. You're not seeing the jerky moves like you see in other AI videos. You're not seeing any weird hand movements or anything like that. Like, this is a technique that's actually working pretty well for the show's advantages. But then again, that also could possibly be the reason why we're probably not going to see a season 3 of Ted anytime soon. Because, yeah, Seth MacFarlane did legitimately say that, we have a movie caliber budget on this show, and it's going to hold us back from doing another season of this, which it's a shame because the Ted live action series is pretty good. But hey, we're still getting a Ted animated series, and Seth MacFarlane's getting a lot of other work done as well. Of course, maybe he can finally get that Family Guy movie off the ground, which I thought that was also funny too. When it was revealed that they say Family Guy takes up to 10 months to 1 year to put one episode together. Which, if you don't know out there, for those of you that don't know how the old school animation worked, that was pretty much the norm for everything. Like the old school Disney movies, The Simpsons, of course, did that as well. I mean, this is not a new thing, but of course, Gen Z social media basically looked at it and go like, how dare it take Family Guy that long to do? It's like, and at the same time, though, it's just like, you can definitely tell that Seth MacFarlane does not really do a whole lot for Family Guy except to just do the voices, because when you watch Family Guy as of late, like I just watched the newest episodes tonight, and yeah, needless to say, Family Guy has definitely been on a slump for a couple of years now. There's been times when you get a good episode here and there, but yeah, this season so far has been pretty lackluster, and I think it's mostly just because they're stuck with the same writers that they've had pretty much since the beginning. There has not been a sense of a youth movement, like, say, in The Simpsons, where, yeah, The Simpsons have those lulls here and there, but they find ways to keep the show going with a new, fresh set of writers coming in here, writers and directors, and they put out some really good stuff. The seasons that they've been on for The Simpsons as of late have been really good, so I would like to think that with this new 4-season order that they have, they'll get some new blood into Family Guy, give it some new life in general. I don't think it's going to happen, but I wish it would, because it would be definitely something where, it would be something that it definitely needs to happen down the road. But I don't know. That's just wishful thinking on my part. But there you go. Those are the two stories centering around Seth MacFarlane. I guess we can head back into the realm of Warner Brothers, because the next story I have here relates to one of their big Oscar contenders that will get some buzz get some awards next week, I should say. So like I said, One Battle After Another is about a week away from probably getting several awards, possibly a Best Picture. Paul Thomas Anderson will probably get an award. Hopefully, Teyana Taylor has a good chance of maybe getting one if Amy Madigan doesn't win. But Best Picture, I think, still is a possibility for them in general. Although, if either that or Sinners win, I won't mind it too much. But Teyana Taylor's character from that movie is making some headlines this week about maybe a potential spin-off film. So this is again from Deadline Hollywood. With her first Oscar nomination under her belt, Teyana Taylor is already looking to revisit her breakout on-screen role. The One Battle After Another star explained that in wanting people to fully understand who Perfidia is, she's had discussions with writer-director Paul Thomas Anderson about a potential offshoot centering around her character. It's already a journey in real time, but I'm so focused on being present that I haven't really taken a seat to really process and be like, oh yeah, they want more of me, she told IndieWire. Here and there, I make little jokes with Paul. I'm like, we need to see what Perfidia did in those 16 years. Taylor added, but Perfidia and Willa need some scenes together. When Willa walked out the door in that last scene, I said, where's she really going? Is she going to free Deandra? Is she going to find her mommy? I love that it's still hopeful and it's room for a little part 2 in there somewhere. In One Battle After Another, Taylor stars as Perfidia Beverly Hills, a far-left revolutionary who sells out her group, French 75, to the military before abandoning her partner, Pat, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and daughter, Willa, played by Chase Infinity, who I still think it's a crime that she did not get nominated for Best Actress Oscar this year. That's a damn shame, but the conversations are very, very real, said Taylor of the potential sequel. I want to give everybody confirmation that I am currently begging PTA to give us that. I'm begging him to give us that. So, the first thing you want to think about here is what they're doing with the Brad Pitt character from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which Brad Pitt won the Oscar for playing Clint Booth, and we got the trailer for the Clint Booth Once Upon a Time in Hollywood spinoff being written by Quentin Tarantino and directed by David Fincher, coming to Netflix later this year. And I wasn't the biggest fan of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think it's actually one of Quentin Tarantino's lesser films in general, and I really do feel like that was more of a Brad Pitt, here's an Oscar for your body of work type of award, because he was good in the movie. I didn't think he was great enough to really be seen as an Oscar winner for that particular movie. But hey, he won an Oscar, so give him the credit where credit is due. But But yeah, of course the big thing with this is that, that's the first thing I thought of when I first heard this news in general, and the fact that Paul Thomas Anderson would come on board to do another movie about this, and I do want to see more of that character. I mean, that character has one of the most iconic shots of the year, a shot that I had to find the poster for it, the movie poster for it, with that image there, and I got that poster, and I'm so glad I was able to find that shot of her with that shotgun, and while she's fully pregnant. It's just like that is such a excellent shot from one of the highlights of last year in general. Even though Once Upon a Time Hollywood, One Battle After Another didn't make my top 10 list, it's still one of my favorite movies of the year. So I would be more than willing to go ahead and see another adventure with Perfidia Beverly Hills if we can get that done pretty soon. But yeah. But with all that said, though, it's definitely a film It's definitely a film that I would definitely pay to see, and then some. So hopefully that will get done. But I'm not going to do the Will It Survive the WB merger because we haven't gotten any official word on whether or not it actually will get done yet. But it's something I definitely would check out, no question about it. And let's get to some other things I'm definitely going to be checking out once they get made. And that is that the Wild Robot 2 is officially moving forward. I figured that it was going to get made sooner or later, considering how successful the original one was. But we finally got some details this week. First through the RAB, but it's one of those things we have to go behind a paywall to get it. But I found a story here on Gizmodo from Germain Lussier, and it says, "Time to touch the sky, Wild Robot fans. News of its sequel is finally here, and we couldn't be more excited." Released in 2004, The Wild Robot was IO9's pick for the best film of the year. My pick, too. Based on a novel by Peter Brown and written and directed by animation legend Chris Sanders, it's a stunning work and brought us immense joy. Now, the rap reveals that Brown's second book in the series, The Wild Robot Escapes, is in development from DreamWorks Animation, but Sanders won't return to direct. He's adapting the screenplay and handing the reins to Troy Kwan, one of the directors who made Nimona, which was one of my favorite movies from 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2023, because it was the same year that Across the Spider-Verse came out. The head of story on the first film, Heidi Jo Gilbert, will be a co-director. That first film, which featured Lupita Nyong'o as the voice of Roz, along with Pedro Pascal, Bill Nighy, Stephanie Hsu, Matt Berry, Ving Rhames, Mark Hamill, and the late great Catherine O'Hara, ended in a very fitting, conclusive way, but there's always room for more story. In the second novel, Roz is assigned to a dairy farm where she eventually reveals to the animals that she's more than just a robot. Things take a turn as her son Brightbill returns to help save her and the other animals. No word yet on who might be returning voice-wise, but you can't really make the movie without Nyong'o as Roz. Yeah, and that's true, because, of course, more importantly, not having her in there, you can't make this movie without Chris Sanders being involved in some way, shape, or form. I mean, when Chris Sanders gets involved with a project, it's just automatic gold. I mean, even the lesser films he does, like The Call of the Wild, which is a film that most people still hate, I still love that movie in general. And it's not the best movie that he's ever done, but it's still a damn good movie overall. But no, Chris Sanders is not involved in this, unfortunately. He is working on another bigger project over at Disney, and it could be the return of Lilo and Stitch, which he's already writing the script for, but he also could be directing as well. It was reported in that same Wrap article that Chris Sanders is supposedly being eyed to direct Lilo and Stitch 2, as well as write the script in general, which I am more than for that. I more than agree with the decision for him to be more involved with the Lilo and Stitch franchise. I mean, yeah, I like the first film a lot more than most people did, but I agree that not having Sanders in there did kind of hurt in the long run. Plus, there are some changes that they made that, I mean, the biggest change that I thought that they didn't need to do was making Jumba the villain. If they could somehow find a way to make Jumba not the villain for the next movie, I think that's a win right there from the get-go. But I did really enjoy the first live-action Lilo and Stitch movie. Like I said, Stitch is my favorite Disney character, so yeah. I mean, not much more to really say about that one, but it looks like Chris Sanders is looking like he's going to be eyed to direct that movie, and I think having him more involved in this project will definitely be a good thing for the Lilo and Stitch live-action series in general, but that's just my personal opinion on that one. So that's not much more to say about that one in general. Let's go ahead and move on to some Jason Bourne news, and the fact that Matt Damon may not be coming back for this one. So Universal is, of course, had the Bourne franchise since it began back in 2002. There was a bit of scuffle whether or not they would continue the franchise after they lost the rights to them in general, but Universal eventually got the rights back, and so we're getting a new Bourne movie with the director of Conclave and All Quiet on the Western Front, Edward Berger, but the belief was that Matt Damon was going to return as Jason Bourne. Turns out that wasn't the case at all, as it's now revealed that Matt Damon is looking like he's going to be out of the next Bourne film. So they'll have to go back to the drawing board again. And the last time they tried to do this without Matt Damon as Jason Bourne, the end results were not that great. Of course, was the Bourne Legacy with Jeremy Renner, who was not the worst part about that movie. The script overall, the movie, in fact, overall was just terrible. I mean, it was literally a knockoff Bourne movie, but it was made by the same company and the same people who made the Bourne franchise. And I think them trying to do it without Matt Damon really hurt that series in the long run, but they came back with Jason Bourne, which I thought was pretty good. But the question now becomes who possibly takes over the role of Jason Bourne. And I think there are a number of different people that you can go to here. In fact, on this website I see here, the AUReview.com, they do reveal a couple of interesting names in general. One of the names they say is Brandon Skellner from The Intensity Factor, which I have not seen. Oh no, that's not the name of the movie. That's just the indications of what they think are. Brandon Skellner. But I do like this next one they have here. Tyreek Withers, who is somebody that was just in the movie Him, which was not a great movie, but he was one of the things that really stood out about that movie the most, and he's going to be in reminders of Him. I think that he definitely could be somebody that could fit the role of Jason Bourne very well. I think he's got a promising young future in general. They have Theo James, who is an actor that they've been trying to build as the next big star for a couple of years now. It started mostly with the Divergent series, but he was just in Luc Besson's, I think it was, not Luc Besson's, The Gentleman, which came out a couple of years ago. That's somebody that they threw in there. They also have Brendan Perea. They said Simu Liu, who was, of course, in Shang-Chi, and we're still waiting for that sequel, essentially, to get made, but they have Simu Liu as a possibility here, which that could be intriguing overall, if they want to take that in a different direction overall, not just cast a typical white guy for the role here. You got a guy like Simu Liu, who, of course, is Chinese, but I mean, I think he deserves a franchise, really, because they've been talking about doing the Shang-Chi movie for several years now. It still has not gotten off the drawing board, even though the sequel is still in development, according to according to Simu Liu. But of course, the director's now working on Spider-Man: Brand New Day, so maybe after the Avengers films come out, the new ones, we'll probably get the sequel for that. But I'm trying to think of who else could possibly fit that role. The only other person I can think of maybe is Alan Ritchson. But he's been playing Jack Reacher the last couple of years, and I don't think they want to cast somebody who's already a name that's been associated with the project, which is why I didn't also include John Krasinski, who's been pretty good as Jack Ryan. Maybe Chris Pratt? Maybe? I'm not entirely sure that would work, but I mean, there's definitely some possibilities on who could potentially play the role of Jason Bourne. The only thing is that just just try. Actually give us a story. Don't just be like the Bourne Legacy and just go with a film that you think is going to work simply because of the name brand. You got this rising actor, and don't even worry about how bad the script could be. But I hope that doesn't happen, but we'll see what happens with that one. So let's go ahead and we got another Paramount story here, but this time a good Paramount story. So Paramount finally realized after 7 years, oh shit, we own Garfield. Let's get a TV series going here. Because of course they bought Garfield from United Feature Syndicate back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, and they've been developing the show that they've had for a number of years. You've seen the clips online if you go onto social media and find like the clips from this Garfield show that was originally supposed to be a Nickelodeon show but never really got off the ground. But according to Deadline Hollywood, it says Garfield is making a TV return. Paramount Plus has picked up a new original 2D animated series featuring the iconic lasagna-loving orange cat. Voicing Garfield is Emmy-winning actor-comedian Lamont Morris from Fargo and New Girl, in a casting that will make Morris's New Girl feline co-star Ferguson proud. Tentatively titled Garfield, the series from Nickelodeon Animation Studios is inspired by Jim Davis's original comic strip and features the chunky feline. I've never heard that type of a definition for Garfield, but the chunky feline at his finest, most sarcastic and lackadaisical. Dave H. Johnson of Middlemost Post and John Trapick III of SpongeBob SquarePants and Middlemost Post serve as executive producers. The pickup of Garfield, which is currently in production, brings to an end the project's lengthy road to the screen. It started back in 2019, 2 Paramount mergers and regiments ago, when Nickelodeon's then parent Viacom acquired the IP to the cartoon from owner Paws. Okay, it's not United Feature Syndicate, it's Paws Inc., and announced the development of a new Garfield animated series. Under the agreement, Paramount predecessor Viacom also took over managing the global merchandising rights to the property. Since then, the Garfield character has been integrated into the Paramount products and experiences portfolio across categories spanning apparel, toys, publishing, food, pets, and more, including such Nickelodeon game franchises as All-Star Brawl and Kart Racers, in which the Monday Slothing Cat was voiced by Frank Welker. Meanwhile, the animated series has taken a while to come together, spending 7 years in development and production. So this basically confirms that clip that was leaked out several years ago, that's what the show was doing. So they basically were waiting 7 years to find the replacement to voice Garfield. When Frank Welker is still alive and well, and when you still had Norm Macdonald right there for the taking, you could have hired Norm Macdonald. We could have finally had my lifelong dream of hearing Norm Macdonald as the voice of Garfield, and yet they decide not to do that. But, of course, there's the Garfield movies with Chris Pratt. They've got the sequel coming out here, so it's good to see that they're finally getting the show off the ground. And I saw that clip from the animation early on, and it's very interesting, and it looks very unique and something different for Garfield in general. But I mean, hopefully it'll turn out to be pretty good. It's a show I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. It looks like we're finally getting it done pretty soon, so one can only hope that's the direction that we're going to head into when this finally gets done. But, of course, Lamont Morris has a number of different things working on right now. He's on Fargo. He won an Emmy for that the last time the season happened. He's going to next be seen in the Spider Noir series on Amazon Prime. And he's working on Jumanji 4 right now. Not Jurassic Park, Jumanji 4, which comes out later on this year. So, definitely looking forward to that indeed. Moving on to the next story here, of course, Pixar has a big draw this weekend with Hoppers becoming the success that it was, but it gave the creators at Pixar a chance to reveal some upcoming projects that they have been working on. Of course, we've got several sequels in the works right now. Incredibles 3 is coming out supposedly in a couple of years from now, but also Coco 2 in 2029. But it was also revealed this weekend that we're getting a third Monsters, Inc. movie. This is again from The Hollywood Reporter, and it says, "The monsters are returning." In a recent profile with the Wall Street Journal promoting Pixar's latest movie, Hoppers, the publication revealed that the studio is developing a third Monsters, Inc. movie. Monsters, Inc., directed by now Pixar Chief Creative Officer Pete Docter, debuted in 2001 and features Mike Wazowski, Billy Crystal, and John P. Sullivan, voiced by John Goodman, who work at a power company run by monsters that generate energy by scaring children. The family-friendly film was a huge success at the box office, grossing $528.7 million worldwide. The franchise later expanded with the prequel film Monsters University and the Disney Plus series Monsters at Work. While no further details were revealed about who will return, the plot or its director's updates were shared on other future Pixar projects. According to WSJ, Toy Story 5 is anticipated to be another blockbuster for the studio. Other beloved Pixar films are also continuing. Incredibles 3 is set for 2028, and Coco's sequel is expected in 2029. The Hollywood Reporter reached out for Disney for additional comment. Wall Street Journal also reported that Pixar is developing its first musical, and that Ano Ghost Market will be a feature film inspired by Asian myths about supernatural bazaars where the living and dead interact. So it's basically another Coco, but the musical thing is pretty interesting because, let's be honest, most of Pixar's movies are musicals. I mean, there's a lot of songs that we remember from the Toy Story movies, and Coco is a very much a musical thing, so, I mean, it's officially taken them over 30 years to realize that, we haven't done a full-on musical movie, so let's go ahead and do that. Why not? And, excuse me, but yeah, that I thought was kind of intriguing overall, but yeah, I think this is stuff that we're going to hear, this is stuff that they're announcing early on, and I feel like we're definitely going to hear a lot more about this in a few months' time, with D23 coming up in August, I believe. It should be coming up around mid-August, if it's like the last D23 a couple years ago. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how the Monsters Inc. world expands. I think they did that thing this past December with the Monsters Inc. NFL Monday Night Football game on Disney Plus, which was actually a ton of fun to watch. But yeah, I think Pixar can live in a world where they can still produce original films like Hoppers and still produce sequels, and I think they can coexist together. I mean, they've been kind of doing that for the longest time now. Like I said in my review, Pixar never really left. They had one bad movie since the decade began, and that was Lightyear. But everything else, Soul, Luca, Turning Red, Elemental, Elio, those are all really good movies. And even Inside Out 2, a sequel, was really good too. So, yeah, I'm hoping for a lot of good things for Toy Story 6. Toy Story 5, it looks very promising, and hopefully it'll turn out to be really good. But, Yeah, Pixar never really left. It's been around for a long time, and right now it's going just as strong as you can expect it to be. So, all right. So anyway, moving on to another story from the world of Disney, and this time not good news. Well, maybe that's not good news for some people, but for most of us, it's pretty good news. And that is that Disney's Robin Hood live-action remake is not moving forward. And this continues kind of the trend that was starting with when Snow White flopped last year with this, and also the Aristocats remake was also pulled as well, even though they're still working on they're still doing the live-action Tangled movie, and also we've got Moana coming up this summer. But again, from the Hollywood Reporter, fans of Disney's 1970 animated feature Robin Hood aren't likely to be feeling particularly merry after the latest update about a potential live-action remake. Hollywood Reporter, you don't understand your audience. I think people are very happy that this is not moving forward, but during a recent Reddit AMA, filmmaker Carlos Lopez Estrada said that the studio was not moving forward with its planned photorealistic musical. The Hollywood Reporter exclusively reported in April of 2020 that Estrada was in early development on the movie for the streaming service Disney+, after deals were finalized prior to the industry shutting down amid the COVID-19 pandemic. It's dead, sadly, Estrada wrote in response to a question about the project's status. I say sadly because I actually thought that there was something really special and original there. Some truly extraordinary music we have figured out for it. The Blindspotting director added, I keep daydreaming about doing it independently with different characters. The Hollywood Reporter previously reported that Kari Grayling was writing the script for a future remake that would have been a hybrid of live action and CG. Grayling worked on the screenplay for Disney's 2019 version of Lady and the Tramp, which became the studio's first remake to debut on a streaming platform. Disney has continued to prioritize its theatrical remakes of classic animated properties. This includes a live-action take on Tangled, which is back in active development after the Hollywood Reporter reported last year that the film's progress had been paused in light of Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot's live-action Snow White underperforming at the box office. Since then, Disney has had a massive hit with the live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch, and while Barry Jenkins' prequel Mufasa the Lion King also had a strong showing. Director Thomas Calley's live-action remake of Moana hits theaters this summer. Additionally, the studio has been developing a live-action spin-off of Beauty and the Beast villain Gaston, and a remake of Hercules from filmmaker Guy Ritchie. Robin Hood hit theaters in 1973 and used animated anthropomorphic animals to tell the classic story of the heroic outlaw. Robin Hood and Maid Marian were depicted as red foxes, while Little John was a brown bear and Prince John was a lion. The film surpassed $32 million in the domestic box office, $234 million today, inflation, and earned an Oscar nomination for the song Love. Of course, Carlos Lopez Estrada directed Raya and the Last Dragon, which I'm starting to see now is getting a backlash from people. I thought the movie was really good. I thought a lot of people liked that movie when it came out, but I guess there's now a backlash to it for some reason. But I still enjoyed that movie, But like I said, I feel like more people are happy that they're not just going to keep remaking these Disney animated movies, because I think Snow White was kind of the breaking point for them. I feel like Lilo and Stitch was kind of a lightning in a bottle moment again. Like, I really have no belief that Moana is going to turn out to be that big of a hit or that good. Yeah, you can promote it all throughout the Olympics all you want to. I'm sorry, it's probably not going to be that good. Just saying. I mean, the fact that you're remaking an animated movie not but 10 years after the original film came out still baffles me, but it is what it is. It's coming out this summer, so we'll see what happens there. But needless to say, I think more people are happy that we're not getting this Robin Hood movie than they are that they're disappointed they're not getting it. So that's just my personal take on that one. So let's go ahead and move on to this story that is kind of slowly been pushed under the radar with everything else that's been going on in Hollywood, but it is important to note. So yeah, with everything kind of going on right now in the world, we got the war in Iran, we got the war in Hollywood right now with the Warner Bros. Paramount merger, you probably forgot about the fact that SAG-AFTRA is in contract negotiations again to possibly prevent another actors and writers strike, because the three-year deal that they agreed to in 2023 comes to a close on June 30th. And so this week we have a story talking about what's going on with that. But SAG-AFTRA and the AMPTP announced on Thursday, I believe the story came out, Friday I should say, because this came out on Friday, March 6th, that they have agreed to extend negotiations into next week, the week of March 9th. This is the final extension for the current block of talks between the two sides, as they will be bumping against the planned April 16th start of negotiations between the AMPTP and the WGA. If the actors and studios cannot reach an agreement next week, SAG-AFTRA will have to go back on the line and wait for its turn to resume talks with the AMPTP in June. After the studios have gone through their scheduled contract negotiations with the WGA and the DGA, Writers Guild and Directors Guild of America, SAG-AFTRA's current contract expires on June 30th. Both the AMPTP and SAG-AFTRA have adhered to a media blackout they imposed on the negotiations from the start. According to sources, the two sides have made progress, which would explain why they agreed to extend talks into next week instead of pulling a pin in there for now. While there has been a good amount of movement, there are still some wide chasms on a few key issues, sources caution. We heard that two sides may be exchanging proposals today that could help bridge some of the outstanding gaps and determine whether next week could lead to a deal or not. So, it looks like this is turning out to be a much easier route than it was in 2023, but then again, keep it with a grain of salt, because, something could happen where the negotiations could teeter off and we could be heading towards maybe another strike like we had 3 years ago, which really dampened the Hollywood industry around that time. So, yeah, it's possible that could happen again, but it looks like the promising signs are that this is something that's going to be resolved pretty quickly, one would hope, but we'll keep updating on this as we go along here. But it's still very early on, and we still got a couple more months before the strike, before any contract negotiations, before any contracts expire. So, yeah, it's definitely something that we'll keep a close ear on for you. Excuse me, sorry about that. Good Lord. All right, we'll keep you up to date on this here on the Review Network Live as the story continues to develop. But it sounds like this is probably a good thing that there's not that much talking about going on with this whole thing. But with all that said, though, let's go ahead and move on to the last thing I want to cover here. And as I mentioned before, the Academy Awards are 1 week away, 1 week from tonight. In fact, by the time that about 1 week from now is the time of recording this, around 10:24, we're about 30 minutes away from finding out who's going to win Best Picture. But of course, this is the time of year where everyone's getting excited about who's going to win. It's a very uneven year this year. There's not really a lot of guarantees. There's a lot of possibilities, like the belief is that Sinners might have a better chance of winning Best Picture and probably having a good night at the Oscars than one battle after another. Ryan Coogler will probably win an award. Michael B. Jordan is getting some early buzz. I think he actually surpassed the predictions this week that he'll win the Oscar for Best Actor over Timothée Chalamet. The only real thing that everyone is really really confirming itself that will probably happen will be Jessie Buckley winning for Best Actress for Hamnet. And right now, even though I have not seen that movie, I could probably see that happening in general. I know Rose Byrne won a couple of awards, maybe giving her a little bit of an Oscar push there, but I don't think it's going to happen this time around. And also, Emma Stone's also nominated too, but I don't think they're going to give her 3 Oscars this early on when she won her last 2 in the last 10 years. But you never know. But one of the things that's very interesting to look forward to the weeks leading up to the Oscars are the anonymous Oscar ballots, or as the Hollywood Reporter likes to call it, the brutally honest Oscar ballots. Because when you read some of these things, it's definitely very interesting on some of the things that you can find digging through these things here. And I've got 2 anonymous ballots in particular from both the Hollywood Reporter and Variety. And I just want to give you kind of an indication of what these particular ballots are saying. So I'll start off with the one for Variety, and let's go ahead and read some of the things in this particular Oscar ballot here. Where's the thing I wanted to read? Here it goes. This is from Variety. Here are some of the most notable takeaways from voters, including selections from anonymous Oscar ballots. Best Picture is a true-to-form 2-film race with no daylight between them. Sinners and One Battle After Another are, by a wide margin, the top 2 choices among voters. So, more than likely, it's going to be those 2 winning at the Oscars. But let's go ahead and move on to voter number 1's profile. He's an American, actress branch, under 65 years old, person of color. So, I mean, you can make the argument maybe it's probably, I don't know, Denzel Washington or something like that. Could be Will Smith, even though he hasn't been to the Oscars for the last couple of years. But his choices are Best Picture, Sinners, director Chloe Zhao for Hamnet, actor Michael B. Jordan, Sinners, actress Jessie Buckley for Hamnet, supporting actor Jacob Elordi at Frankenstein, supporting actress Rumi Musaka for Sinners. Good, I loved Hamlet and Sinners. I don't want to punish either film for being different kinds of great. Both gutted me in different ways. Bad, I couldn't find any of the shorts this year. They really are a drag. Which I'll tend to agree with him on the short films category. I mean, it's really hard to pick the documentary, the live action, and the animated short film category. Even when I did the nominations, my predictions this year, because I did the Reviewing Network Awards last night. I recorded that, and you get to see that on Saturday on the main channel. But even when I put my predictions up there, I just picked whatever one I felt like was going to win, because I never saw most of those shorts, so I can understand where this guy's coming from. Ugly. I thought all 10 movies were great, but overall not a great year for movies. I tend to agree with that. Like I said, there's a couple movies in that list where I could have easily seen a much better movie taking their place, like including one of my worst Oscar nomination pick, which will be in the review number worst, but I'll save that for another time. But the next thing it says, Best Actor shows Michael B. Jordan is surging with Leonardo DiCaprio and Ethan Hawke as spoilers. Best Actor is, by a considerable margin, the most scattered category in this ballot survey. Support is spread across several contenders, though one theme is clear. Michael B. Jordan has built enough backing to emerge as a serious favorite for his first Oscar, which is incredible to think about, because like I said, Timothée Chalamet looked like he was going to be the guy to win it this year. And before that, it was Wagner Moura, who was Death in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. He's nominated for The Secret Agent, but this is from voter number 2, American, Craft Branch, over 65, white. Best Picture, F1. Director Chloe Zhao. Actor Leonardo DiCaprio. Actress Kate Hudson. Supporting actor Sean Penn. Supporting actress Teyana Taylor. It says something when the only one that I could definitely see as a possibility is Teyana Taylor as supporting actress. Like, Kate Hudson getting nominated for Song Sung Blue. I mean, that was one of those ones where I saw the nomination, I was just thinking to myself, like, really? Like, she's getting a nomination for that? This exchange came after the voter read the ballot aloud. Variety says, these choices are surprising and all over the place. Can you explain, like, why Chloe? Voter said, because I couldn't vote for Joe Kosinski. That's it, Variety said, and I think her movie is interesting. Why didn't you vote for Jessie Buckley? I like Kate. That guy seems like he's kind of an arrogance that doesn't really like answering questions with long explanations. Why didn't you vote for it? Why couldn't you pick Hamnet? Because I couldn't vote for. Why'd you pick Chloe Zhao? Because I couldn't vote for Joseph Kosinski. It's just like, okay, and that one felt weird. But some of the films that were homework at the end. Hamlet, The Secret Agent, and Sentimental Value were the late homework assignments for many members. Films a notable number of voters had not seen until the final days of balloting. The timing could help Jessie Buckley, who's been a consistent force throughout the season. A fresh late screening of Hamlet may have worked in her favor. This one is from voter number 3 profile, American Artisans Branch under 65 Black. Best Picture Sinners, director Ryan Coogler Sinners, actor Michael B. Jordan Sinners, actress Jessie Buckley Hamlet, supporting actor Delroy Lindo Sinners, supporting actress Wunmi Masaka Sinners, original screenplay Sinners, additional screenplay, adapted screenplay One Battle After Another. A lot of this is for Sinners. There's a couple of Hamlets in there. Frankenstein got makeup and hairstyling. The good, Sinners is the movie that made me remember what a theater is for. Bad, are we allowed to finally talk about why One Battle After Another is a bad movie, or are we still just pretending it's not the most problematic movie for the black community since maybe Green Book? Hey man, come on. Green Book sucked. Green Book was basically Driving Miss Daisy for the 21st century. Do not compare One Battle After Another to Green Book. I'm sorry, that's just not what I'm going to say on that front there. But next one here, Delroy Lindo led the charge early, but Sean Penn has had a huge showing in the last 48 hours. The supporting actor race appears to have narrowed down to 3 contenders: Delroy Lindo for Sinners, Sean Penn for One Battle After Another, and Stellan Skarsgård for Sentimental Value. This comes from voter number 4 profile, American Writers Branch under 65 woman. Best Picture Sinners, director Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another, Timothée Chalamet, Marty Supreme for Best Actor, Jessie Buckley Hamlet, Stellan Skarsgård supporting actor, Amy Madigan supporting actress, original screenplay Sentimental Value, adapted screenplay One Battle After Another, Sinners for casting, K-pop Demon Hunters for animated feature. So yeah, a lot of stuff here going back to Sinners in general. Good. There were a lot of movies I love watching this year. Original movies are back, baby. Bad. I hated Frankenstein. I still can't stop thinking about the cinematography in Train Dreams. Ugly. I wish Stellan was in Best Actor, but that's a Best Actor performance, not a supporting one. And the last one I have here, Amy Madigan has the home field advantage, and Wunmi Masaka has the range of demographics. Supporting actors produce some of the most nuanced, balanced conversations. Amy Madigan's performance in Weapons appears to carry substantial goodwill among Los Angeles-based industry voters, the kind of hometown backing that could matter in a close race. Her SAG award reflects the strength. But Wunmi Masaka of Sinners might be the most interesting contender in the category. She seems to be pulling support from 2 different groups: committed Sinners voters checking the film across the ballot, and One Battle After Another supporters who appear to be using the category as a place to honor another standout performance. In at least a few other cases, voters have favored One Battle After Another in Best Picture. Directors and actors still choose Masaka over co-nominee Teyana Taylor in supporting actress. This voter number 5 is a International Craft Branch over 65 white. Best Picture, One Battle After Another. Director Paul Thomas Anderson. Actor Wagner Moura, the secret agent. Actress Jessie Buckley for Hamnet. Supporting actor Benicio del Toro, One Battle After Another. Supporting actress Wumi Masaka, Sinners. Original screenplay, Sentimental Value. Adapted screenplay, One Battle After Another. Casting, One Battle After Another. This one's pretty much going all One Battle After Another, with Sinners only getting one award. That's for supporting actress. I think that's very intriguing here, but good. I watched One Battle After Another twice. The first time I admired it. The second time I've had the time of my life. Bad. I don't think Sinners was great. It felt long and repetitive. Them's fighting words, buddy. I don't know who you are. Ugly. Paul Thomas Anderson is the only filmmaker who made a movie I'll remember 15 to 20 years from now. Everything else is lifeless. So yeah, you kind of get an idea of where this is going here. I'm looking at the other ones here. Nothing really that engaging overall to really kind of talk about on the variety page. Let's turn the attention over to the Hollywood Reporter, because there's the stuff there that I really want to talk about. Now, the Hollywood Reporter put up a brutally honest Oscar ballot that basically has some stuff. It's a lot of stuff in general, but there were some couple of highlighted things that I really want to touch on here. They have one ballot here who said that Sentimental Value is nearly perfect and has that as their Best Picture winner. Best Director, they voted Ryan Coogler for Sinners. Best Actor, they have Ethan Hawke for Blue Moon. For Best Actress, they have Renate Rainsby from Sentimental Value, a name we haven't heard much in this category these articles so far. Best Supporting Actor, Benicio del Toro for One Battle After Another. Best Supporting Actress, another one for Sentimental Value, Inga Ibsdottir Lilias. Best Adapted Screenplay, One Battle After Another. Best Original Screenplay, Sentimental Value. But this one in particular really kind of bugs me. Best Animated Feature. Here's what this person said about Best Animated Feature. When my kids were little, I used to be much more up to speed on this category, but now I'm not, so I'm sitting it out. Vote abstain. So they didn't even bother putting a vote for this, for the Best Animated Feature. And do we really still need to have this argument that animation is just as good as live action? I thought we were past that point, but apparently we still need to have that lesson. Like, that's the lamest excuse I've ever heard for not choosing a winner. When my kids were little, I used to be more up to speed on this category, but now I'm not, so I'm sitting it out. Just like, what kind of a excuse is that? Like, I thought they changed the rules last year so that you had to have seen all the Oscar nominees. You had to see all the movies to vote. I think that was the whole point of that whole thing that they did last year, where they basically said that's part of our rules now. You have to watch the movies that are nominated, or else you're not getting a vote. Like, you have to literally see the films in general here. Like, to go half-ass on that, that's the type of person that needs their awards credentials revoked. Like, hell, I'll take it. If you're not even gonna bother to try, I'll be more than happy to come in and do this. It's just like what kind of an excuse is that? Like, that thing just really kind of irks me to no end. And it was a female member who did this, but that was not the only thing that came out of this that I thought was very unsettling and unnerving to see. I said this also because the same person also said, I didn't watch Frankenstein. Frankenstein was one of the Best Picture nominees this year. You have no excuse. You should have watched the fucking movie. I mean, that was supposed to be the rule. In fact, I've got it right here. The Academy is now implementing a new rule that members must now watch all nominated films in each category to be eligible to vote in the final round for the Oscars. Apparently, the Academy forgot their rule in general. Well, and basically didn't tell this person, hey, you gotta watch all these movies or we're not accepting your ballot. I mean, it's just, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever why someone would publicly put this out there for no other reason except to just like, you know, think like they're still following the original rules. Well, those original rules don't exist anymore. Like, it's just, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, man, except that, yeah, you made a gigantic mistake, and that's something that you have to, like, you really have to realize that you broke the new rules, and your vote should not count, which I don't know if that's what's actually happening or not, but I mean, yeah, it's definitely something that should definitely be mentioned, should definitely be brought up with the Academy in general. But anyway, that not much more to say on that front there, except that we're 1 week away from finding out who's going to take home the Oscars. So with all that said, though, let's go ahead and finish the show off here by taking a look at the recommendations for the week. And like I said, it's not a good week for new releases. We had the big week of new releases last week with Zootopia 2 and The Running Man, which I did get this week, finally. Ella McKay also came out, so we don't have any big recent releases coming out, but a lot of catalog titles. So if there is one I could one thing to recommend this week, it's something I mentioned before, Ted Season 2 on Peacock, which, like I said, I love the character of Ted, and I was waiting for this new season to come around, and it's funny stuff, man. It is really funny stuff. I've been a fan of the show since the very beginning, and I was hoping that the show would continue, but unfortunately the high production cost basically have kind of killed that. But it looks like the franchise is going to continue with the Ted animated series, so it won't be a complete disaster overall. But nevertheless, yeah, it is definitely something that should be seen. It does serve as a nice conclusion to the series and storyline in general, because it does leave off the fact that Mark Wahlberg this kid's going to turn into the Mark Wahlberg character in the season finale. So I guess they kind of already have kind of set it up as the end of the series in general beforehand. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. If you have Peacock, definitely check it out. So that's pretty much all I got for your recommendations this week, and that's going to wrap up the show. So one word of note, of course, next week will be the Reviewing Network Awards on the main channel. That's on Saturday. And then next Sunday here on the Reviewing Network Live, we are doing our annual Oscars rewatch. We'll be watching the Oscars live as it happens. We'll find out what movies are going to take home the big awards, and I'll give you my reactions and all that. That's next week, so be on the lookout for that next week. But with all that said, thank you so much for joining us this week, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button. Check out the last episode we did. Check out our playlist. And I will see you guys next week. So thanks for watching and listening. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, we are out.